It turns out VIZIO is more than just a TV company. They're actually one of the more successful soundbar manufacturers on the market right now, which is saying something considering that soundbar sales continue to increase every single year, making soundbars one of the hottest market segments in all of home theater. And this is no doubt reason why you can get a soundbar for your new TV in virtually every size, configuration, and price. So how does VIZIO's new flagship soundbar measure up? Well, settle in, grab a drink, hit that like button, and subscribe because we have a lot of ground to cover as we review the new Elevate soundbar from VIZIO. On the surface, there's a lot to like about the Elevate soundbar. For starters, it is a 5.1.4 Dolby Atmos and DTS:X enabled soundbar. It comes with an 8-inch powered wireless subwoofer that VIZIO states can reach all the way down to 30 Hertz, as well as 2 wired surround speakers with upward firing drivers that work in conjunction with the adaptive height speakers on the main bar itself. The Elevate has 3 HDMI inputs, one of which supports ARC as well as eARC. It also has an optical audio input, analog audio input, albeit a 3.5mm stereo jack for that, as well as USB. Now, VIZIO includes all of the necessary cables you're going to need to get up and running, so that is a good thing. But for those of you looking to cut down on cable clutter, you'll be happy to know that the Elevate also supports Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and Chromecast. And speaking of Chromecast, if you have a capable smart speaker, you can even interface with the Elevate using Google Assistant, Siri, or Alexa. Installing the Elevate isn't too difficult. Setup, on the other hand, is an entirely different story. Now, normally, this is where I would say, thankfully, there is an app for that. And I would talk about how the remote sucks and how the app is so much better, so you don't even need to use the remote and blah, blah, blah. But not today. Not with the Elevate. Thankfully, there is a remote. The remote is so much better than the app. More reliable, too. We have had this soundbar since mid-December, and in all that time, I have managed to successfully connect it to its own app maybe once or twice. I would show you what the app looks like, except I wasn't able to reconnect it to the Elevate soundbar while filming this review. This is what the process really looks like.
Found.
And that voice you just heard, that might follow you into your dreams if you insist on trying to use the Elevate with the VIZIO SmartCast app. Or you have to reconnect to the app after a loss of signal. So that's really all I have to say about the app. Thankfully, connecting to the bar with Bluetooth is far more straightforward and enables you to bypass the app and enjoy some basic music streaming. Outside of that, you can 100% control the soundbar using the remote control. Just know that you're probably going to have to fiddle with the settings just a bit. Unlike other soundbars around the Elevate's price, the Elevate does not have any auto room correction or auto setup functionality at all. There are presets for movies, music, things like that, but no real magic bullet solution in order to make the Elevate sound best in your room at the touch of a button. So you might need to be prepared to tinker with the settings quite a bit in order to arrive at a sound that is balanced. From the factory and in our room, the Elevate soundbar system is way too bass heavy. The wireless subwoofer is good. It is incredibly powerful, but its default setting is just way too hot. So it has deep bass, but it's completely void of any resolution or articulation. Think Honda Civic and not so much hi-fi. And this deep bass drowns out any resolution in the mid and high frequencies. Thankfully, you can go in and tinker with the settings inside the Elevate's menu and achieve far better bass results. But if you are hoping for an easy, set it and forget it soundbar system straight out of the box, the Elevate soundbar may not be for you. Now, if you're willing to put some time in with this soundbar, things improve greatly. After extensive adjustment to almost every parameter within the Elevate's menu, I arrived at a sound that worked for me. And surprisingly, this meant turning the subwoofer down almost to its lowest setting. And I did this for 2 reasons. First of all, vocals, especially male voices that are lower in octave, kind of like mine, they could sound overly chesty if the volume on the sub was too high. That, and they also sounded as if they were simultaneously coming from the bar and the subwoofer. And this is an experience I don't like. Also, turning the subwoofer down meant that the mid-range driver and tweeters were not overpowered. After my adjustments to the bass, the Elevate soundbar does exhibit a clear and focused, albeit slightly cool mid-range. Adjusting the center speaker level does help with dialogue, but you don't have to go crazy with it, but a little bit of a bump in its level does help the Elevate to sound a little bit more like a traditional home theater with 3 speakers across the front. And the tone and that slightly forward nature mid-range, when adjusted, does help with dialogue intelligibility. This is something that the Elevate is not that good at straight out of the box in its default settings. High frequencies like the mid-range are incredibly clear and focused, but again, just a touch cool. I wouldn't call them harsh or fatiguing, but they can accentuate things like sibilance when pushed. Now, obviously, you can go in, dial the treble back using the remote, which I did, in order to keep this trait at bay. But if you're worried, does the Elevate have the high frequency detail to give it the sonic contrast throughout all of the other musical elements? It has that. You just really have to find the right balance between treble, mid-range, and bass that works for you and your room, because it really is going to differ room to room and person to person. The Elevate is a very fast, relatively articulate, and focused sounding system. It has real speed and visceral punch that makes watching movies in a home theater environment very engaging. Now, the broadness, the spaciousness of that experience can vary depending on how you configure those adaptive height speakers. With the height speakers facing forward, the lateral width of the soundstage is far more 2-channel-like and broad, which I like. With them facing up, that lateral width decreases dramatically, almost as if you took your left and right main speakers and replaced them with smaller speakers, or just took the ones you had and pointed them upward, leaving the center channel to do a lot more heavy lifting. Now, obviously, you can go into the settings and tweak things a bit in order to bring that fullness back, but I think you're starting to see how there isn't just one sort of solution that works for every occasion. The movie preset is the most universal, but even it requires adjustment. Now, about those height speakers, they are cool, and I consider their design rather inspired, but I am nervous about the longevity of those motors over time. They are quite noisy, even brand new, and if you are one to watch a lot of Atmos and non-Atmos content, you're going to put a lot of miles on those motors very quickly. Now, you can leave them up or down permanently, but I think that defeats their design. But they do work, and with Atmos soundtracks, they add noticeable height, making it possible, when used in conjunction with the surrounds, to have a dome-like surround sound effect, which on the Elevate system, when dialed in, is very, very good. And the surround sound speakers are okay. They do a good enough job rounding out the Elevate's surround sound prowess, but they just don't seem to be as capable as the bar itself. That, and they're not wireless. This is actually my second biggest gripe about this system, in that they rely on a proprietary cable to connect to the subwoofer for power and signal. And I understand how that could be potentially a good thing, but it also means that you may not be able to place the subwoofer in your room where it sounds best. Thankfully, the subwoofer does appear to have the requisite power to overcome, say, a placement deficiency, but obviously this is not ideal. Also, or lastly, with respect to the surrounds, that proprietary cable is rather bulky, and with these being small speakers, it can cause them to tip or become wobbly on certain speaker stands. Perhaps the Elevate's most frustrating quirk is its need to tell you everything that it's doing. I'm not joking. Switch from movie to music mode and the sound will completely cut out, and a man's voice will tell you that it's now entering music mode. Now, you can defeat this, but it's not wholly intuitive. I can see how this feature may be beneficial to someone that may be visually impaired, but as it stands, I would like to just have it defeatable a little bit more easily, or maybe just not the default setting, because right out of the box, this soundbar will not shut up. And if you get stuck in connection purgatory, you're probably going to end up doing what I did, and that is completely unplugging the bar from the wall itself while you read the manual looking for the fix. Another thing you need to be aware of is it takes a hot second for the Elevate to power up, and this may monkey with your display's HDMI handshake needs. When connecting it to our P-Series Quantum X television, I found that going into the menu and forcing the VIZIO to identify its connected devices solved this problem rather than leaving it in auto. The only problem is not every TV is going to have this menu option. In terms of comparison, the Elevate faces some pretty stiff competition. Now, it is one of the more affordable Dolby Atmos soundbar solutions on the market right now, but if you can stretch your budget, you will get a better user experience with equal or better sound. For example, the 7.1.4 Dolby Atmos enabled soundbar from LG. It currently retails for $14.99, but is easier to set up and live with compared to the Elevate. Both soundbars have a similar tone and vibe when set correctly, so the extra money that you're spending on the LG may be worth it given the better user experience and added flexibility. Another option is Samsung's Q950T, which I know is more expensive than the VIZIO again, but I'm going to argue you are getting a little bit more for your investment in terms of usability and sound quality. But if you take a step back from LG or Samsung's flagship offerings, the Elevate becomes very much a value leader in and around $1,000. But if $1,000 is too rich for your blood, there is always the Klipsch Cinema 600 system, which at $748 all in, that includes the wireless surrounds. I think it's a better value proposition than the Elevate. I understand the Klipsch 600 is not an Atmos-enabled soundbar, but if you can get away with 5.1, I think the Klipsch is the better value, better sounding bar too. Another option you may consider is waiting on the new M Series 5.1.2 soundbar from VIZIO coming later this year. If I were placing my bets, I would say that the M Series is going to be less expensive and its simple design will likely make it a better fit, especially for home theater novices. So how do I sum up the Elevate 5.1.4 Dolby Atmos soundbar from VIZIO? On the one hand, this system has the potential to absolutely dominate a very crowded marketplace because its performance can be that good. But on the other hand, if you've never set up a soundbar or a home theater in general, be prepared for a very steep learning curve and know that you're going to have to spend considerable time getting to know the Elevate in order to make it sound its best. But if you're someone that likes to get into the menus, get into the dirt and the nitty gritty and make a product your very own, boy, the Elevate is going to be for you. Make no mistake, the Elevate is a good soundbar solution. Full stop. It's just let down by a complicated interface. So that's it. That is my review of the Elevate Dolby Atmos soundbar from VIZIO. What did you think?
Okay, let me start off first by saying I agree with you. It's a good soundbar.
It is.
It's very good. But.
Yeah.
It probably ranks up there with the most maddening piece of gear we've ever had in this house.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe there's an update that can come and fix some of these quirks you've mentioned. But I'm really afraid that with the immediate gratification we as a species have become to expect in everything in life, I don't know that most people, especially those that are in the market for a soundbar, are going to have the patience to deal with the types of, you know, roadblocks that you are going to be, you know, hitting pretty frequently when it comes to this soundbar.
Yeah.
I think that, especially also when you consider that it's the price point is, you know, I'm not saying it's cheap, but it's not.
It's ultra competitive.
Yeah, it's not like super expensive. So when you combine the fact that it's a soundbar. Mm-hmm. Inherently there's a certain segment of the population that's going to be looking for a soundbar, and the fact that it's more affordable, you know, these things all point to me to a market that is not the type that is going to be required to really enjoy it.
I mean, yeah, the whole promise of a soundbar is ease of use. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why you would choose one. And even when viewers comment, like, I used to have a dedicated system, but then I bought the Ambio, or I bought the LG on your recommendation, or I have the Bang & Olufsen, and I don't miss having all the stuff. I like just being able one remote with my television. So that's the promise. And you can get there with this bar. I want that to be perfectly clear. You are able to control it with the VIZIO TV remote or any remote.
Hopefully if you're watching this review, you've made it this far.
Yeah.
We're not lying. It's
maddening.
It's challenging. And if you get stuck, or not you, but if the soundbar gets stuck with not being able to find the app's connection, it can't make that connection, you're probably going to want to throw the thing right out the window. I don't know if it's quite there yet.
I am curious too. VIZIO's been, historically, VIZIO has been fairly good as a company with like firmware updates, and we do know that they are aware of certain things, partially because we asked them about them, so they at least know from us. So I am curious. Like, I'm not ditching it. I'm not ditching the soundbar. Like, I kind of want to see if maybe it gets better, so that maybe in a future vlog or something we can come back to it, because once we got it dialed in, I'm not joking, once we got it dialed in, both of us were watching Soul on Disney Plus, and it was very impressive. Like, sorry, my stomach is growling. It was very impressive.
It was. It sounded really good.
So good.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with Soul, it's an animated movie from Disney that has a lot of music. It's almost like a musical. So it was extremely musical, the soundbar.
Yeah.
Sounded great, like Andrew's saying. But here's the weird thing. We stopped watching that, and I think the next thing that we turned on was like Natalie Merchant or something through the soundbar, and it sounded like a completely different product. It was muffled and vague, and it didn't sound good. And so I even said, what happened?
Yeah, what happened? And you would think we were in movie mode, so I was like, oh, I'm not in the music mode. So you go to music mode, but that didn't fix anything. And so then you're back to going into the menu and adjusting things.
Yeah,
and then you get Natalie
Merchant.
Yeah, and then you get Natalie Merchant sounding great, but then you go back and you start watching television or something, and now that's completely off.
I wonder if VIZIO doesn't just have a tendency to over-engineer things just a bit, because I think the TV, the P-Series Quantum X, it suffers from some of the same issues. Like, not that it let me rephrase that. It doesn't have the same issues that the soundbar does, but it does require you to have a little bit of an upper level knowledge in terms of how to, fine tune it to get the most out of it. Like, it's another one of those. It's another piece of tech that if once you get it set up right, it's fantastic.
Oh my God, it's
just
so good.
The path to get there.
Yeah.
It's it's a bit of a struggle bus.
Yeah.
But the destination,
it can be worth it.
It can be very
worth it. But I will agree with you. I think when VIZIO started as a company, and what's funny is I was actually one of their first customers back when they were called V Inc. Okay, that's how far back I go with the brand. VIZIO, it used to be that you just kind of got what they gave you. There wasn't much in terms of adjustment. Now, over the years, as they started to gain market share, obviously, the things that you start to have to offer to be competitive beyond just price. Because, for years, VIZIO built their entire empire on bigger for less, if you will. But now they're really legitimately starting to compete with the once storied untouchable brands, like Sony. Like, it used to be back in the day, if you wanted a nice TV, you bought a Sony. But now you can put VIZIO in the same sentence as a Sony in some respects. And the way that you get there is through options, through customization, through this, through that. And I just think that they went from not having much to now they have so much. And now it's like, I think we're going to start to see them find a middle ground. At least that's what I'm thinking is going to happen, because the P-Series Quantum X TV, like the soundbar, is a feat of engineering. It is impressive, but I 100% agree with you. It's not the most intuitive, and it's not always the easiest to get to that promised land. And it's one of those products for me that once I get there, I'm like, don't even look at it wrong.
Yeah.
Don't breathe. Don't move. It's perfect.
Yeah.
You know, so if you have like kids or something, or, you know, someone's going to come around and mash a remote, lock those settings down.
Yeah. Totally.
Good now? Okay. So that is our review of the VIZIO Elevate Dolby Atmos soundbar. What did you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, my question of the day for you is this. Now that we have reviewed a number of soundbars and all of the soundbars on the market right now, which one is your favorite? Who makes the best soundbar on the market right now? Let us know down in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe, and ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out. We are still raising money for Feeding Texas. I know things have warmed up and the news maybe has moved on, but people's need for food and water in the state of Texas has not. So please help us raise as much as possible, and let's help some people get back on their feet, at least with some food and clean drinking water. If you used any of the links that Christy left for you down below, know that that is a great way that you continue to show your support for this channel and the work that we do here, and we thank you all very much for doing so. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, and that is it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you again for watching, and we will see you on the next video. Bye. Yeah.
I don't understand if it's saying found.
Exactly.
Why is it?
Do you want to know how infuriating it is to have the bar every 5 seconds go found, found, while your phone is sitting right next to it with a black screen going, we can't see the bar. What did you find?
Yeah.
What are you connected to?
Yes.
Because according to the Wi-Fi settings on my phone, my Wi-Fi on my phone is connected to the soundbar. The app is like, there's nothing here. There's nothing here. And the bar is found. Found. Will you shut up? Found.